Hello everyone and welcome to EduTap. All of you are watching this special session where we are going to discuss the important multiple choice questions, expected multiple choice questions which can be expected in the exam of ESIC Deputy Director related to the subject of freedom movement and Indian Union. We know that this particular topic of freedom movement and Indian Union, this basically pertains to the modern Indian history as well as the political system that has been set up in India after independence, and it is a very important part of the syllabus of the ESIC Deputy Director Examination, particularly in the recruitment test, right? So therefore we have been doing this special series where we are discussing some expected MCQs from the freedom movement and Indian Union. This is the 18th such video in this series, so we have discussed more than 170 questions related to this particular subject, and in this session again we are going to discuss 10 such MCQs, right? So without any delay, let us start with the question number 1. Before that, I would request you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also like this video if you enjoy the content and you feel that this is helping in your preparation, right? Do not forget to join this Telegram channel, the link for which is available in the description box given below, because you can download absolutely free of cost all the PDFs of the sessions that we take here on the YouTube channel, right? So now the question number 1 is in front of you. This question is about the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, right? When Congress leaders condemned the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms or Montagu-Chelmsford report, many moderates left the party to form what? The Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, they came in 1919, and before that in 1918 came the Montagu-Chelmsford report. In the Montagu-Chelmsford report, basically the declarations were made, the recommendations were made that what changes should be made to the Indian political system through the Act of 1919, and most of the recommendations of the 1918 report, they were incorporated into the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms of 1919, which is also known as the Government of India Act of 1919, right? So many Congress leaders, they were not very satisfied with the changes that were made in the 1919 reforms, and that is why many of the Congress leaders, they condemned this particular report, they condemned the particular reforms, and they demanded more changes, more reforms from the Britishers. Because of this, many moderate leaders of the Congress, which did not want to resort to unconstitutional means, which were very soft in their approach and which believed in the gradual transfer of power from Britishers to Indians, they were not satisfied with this condemnation, and therefore they left the Congress party in order to form a different party. Which different party are we talking about here? Options are Swaraj Party, Indian Freedom Party, Independence Federation of India, and Indian Liberal Federation. And we have more than once we have discussed questions on the Swaraj Party, which was formed by the moderate Congress leaders because they were not satisfied or because they were not agreeing with the condemnation of Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, which were brought about in 1919. Therefore, after Swaraj Party was formed differently, Chittaranjan Das ji was the leader of the Swaraj Party, and Motilal Nehru, he was the first secretary, and these were the two important and tallest leaders of Swaraj Party. And then they contested elections, the elections which were formulated according to the provisions of the 1919 reforms. They contested those elections, and they also gained entry into various legislatures, into the legislatures of Bombay, Madras, Punjab, and northern provinces, and therefore the Swaraj Party had marginal success in attaining electoral autonomy from Britishers after the 1919 reforms, right? So this is a very important organization. You should be revising more and more about the Swaraj Party and the leaders which were associated with this, right? Next up, question number 2. Question number 2 is about the Charter Act of 1833. Which among the following provisions was not made, right, in the Charter Act of 1833? Time and again I have said that all these Charter Acts, Government of India Acts, and regulating acts starting from 1773, they are very, very important. These are the acts through which the Britishers, they made or they brought about or introduced some political changes in India, and therefore these changes, they are very, very important from the examination point of view. You can expect many questions coming from these particular topics, right? So be very careful to revise all these particular acts and whatever major changes were made through these acts. For example, Charter Act of 1833, what does it contain? First, option A, the trading activities of East India Company were to be abolished. The East India Company, which initially primarily was a trading company and came into India as a trading company, its trading activities were to be abolished. Now the East India Company was being converted into a regulating company, a company which was governing over the Indian territories and not trading. It was not engaged in trade, right? Option B. The designation of the supreme authority was to be changed as the Governor General of India and Council. Before the 1833 Act, the supreme authority or the highest ranking officer of the East India Company who was responsible for the governance in India, he was known as the Governor General of Bengal, right? But after this particular act was passed in 1833, from 1833 onwards, this highest ranking officer, his title or his rank was changed from Governor General of Bengal to Governor General of India in Council, right? So option B was also a provision of the 33 Act. All lawmaking powers to be conferred on the Governor General and Council. Yes, all the legislative powers, the power to make laws for Indian masses, was handed over to the Governor General and Council. So basically, the council, in which there were three more members in addition to the Governor General, these particular members, they decided to form or frame laws for India, and the Governor General was the highest authority who could finally give assent to any such laws or bills which are being passed. Right? Option D. An Indian was to be appointed as a law member in the Governor General's Council. This will not happen till 1909. In 1909, the Morley-Minto reforms were enacted. The Morley-Minto reforms for the first time introduced the provision of an Indian to be part of the Council of the Governor General, and this Indian member had to be a law member, right? So this provision came in 1909, approximately 100 years after, or 70 years after this particular act. Right? So correct answer here is option D. Indian was to be appointed as law member in the Governor General's Council. I have also discussed this particular issue, that the first Indian member, who was the first Indian member to be part of the Governor General's Council. We have discussed these questions in the earlier sessions also. I want all of you in the comment box to give me the name of the first law member, first Indian law member who was part of the Council of the Governor General. Right? A very famous personality. Who was the first law member to be inducted or to be part of the Governor General's Council? Right? Give me the answers in the comment box first. Question number 3. Look at the question number 3 about the Sadler University Commission, which was established to review the functioning of what? Sadler University Commission was established to review functioning of Calcutta University, Banaras Hindu University, Aligarh Muslim University, or all the universities in India. Basically, Sadler University Commission was one of the first commissions formed or constituted by the Britishers in order to review the functioning of Indian educational system. And this Sadler University Commission was primarily set up to review the functioning of Calcutta University. So correct answer is option A. So Sadler Commission, it reviewed the functioning of Calcutta University, and then it came out with a host of recommendations. But these recommendations, they were not only accepted or applied to the Calcutta University, but they were also applied to all the other universities in India, right? So the primary mandate, the initial mandate for the commission was to look after, or was to review the functioning or governance of the Calcutta University. But gradually their recommendations, they were applied to all the universities in India, right? But we will not forget that initially it was meant for only the Calcutta University. Next up, let us talk about question number 4. Which of the following was not recommended under the Vardha scheme of education? The Vardha scheme of education was very famously put forth by Mahatma Gandhi ji and his Gandhian followers, and this Vardha scheme of education, it enshrined the principles of education as viewed by Gandhi ji, right? So which of the following was not a part of the Vardha scheme of education, not recommended in the Vardha scheme of education? Option A, mass education. The Indian people, the Indian students should be educated at mass. There should be no discrimination or division on access to education. All sections, all genders, all religions, caste, all ages should be should access education, should be able to access education. Therefore mass education, it was part of the Vardha scheme. This cannot be our answer, right? Compulsory education should be there. Every human, every Indian should be given some compulsory amount of years as a educative year. So 7 years or 10 years, some amount of education should be mandatory, should be compulsory for every Indian. No prices should be charged for that, in order to make it accessible for all the sections of society, be rich or poor. All the genders, all the religions should have access to education. So this was also a part of the Vardha scheme of education. No, not our answer. Vocational education from childhood. Gandhiji was a very big advocate of vocational education. He believed that people should gain education about languages, education about sciences, but they should primarily gain some skills, some talent, or some education about professions, what they will do, how will they become self-sufficient, self-dependent, how the various village economies will become inherently self-dependent. This was one of the major objectives of the Vardha scheme of education. That is why vocational education should be provided to students from an early age, so that they are able to profess various particular handicrafts or various particular jobs and professions. Option D, curriculum to cover recent technological advancements or development. This was nowhere mentioned in the Vardha scheme of education. That is why correct answer is option D. Although Vardha scheme of education was not against modern scientific development, not against modern science. Do not confuse that. Vardha scheme of education did not want to learn modern sciences or modern kind of education, recent technology. It was not the case, but no great emphasis was laid down for this. There was no special provisions for these kinds of sciences or modern technological education should be part of the curriculum. But mass education, compulsory education, vocational education, education about Indian languages, education about Indian literature and culture, these all things were part of the Vardha scheme of education, right, which was given out by Gandhiji. I would recommend, if you do not know about Vardha scheme of education, go online and read a few points about this particular scheme, where you will get an idea how the initial after the independence, the initial years of Indian education, how they were shaped or influenced by the Vardha scheme of education put forth by Gandhiji. Next up is question number 5. Which of the following prime ministers sent Cripps mission to India? The Cripps mission was sent by the British government in order to ensure the support of Indians, or support of Indian politicians, primarily support of Indians for their Second World War, right? But Indians, they were very adamant that we will support you in the in the Second World War. Sorry, we will support you. We will provide you with the troops and all the supplies, if you guarantee that after the war you will leave India and you will provide independence to India, right? But Britishers, they were not ready to do that. So the Prime Minister of that time, he sent Cripps mission, a particular team headed by Stafford Cripps, who came to India and tried to placate Indian leaders, tried to give them some benefits, to some reforms, some assurances that India will be granted dominion status, or India will be granted self-government after the First World War. Although the leaders of Indian National Congress and the Muslim League, they were not at all happy with the proposals of Cripps mission, and that is why this mission failed and Quit India movement started. Right, and Indians, they were now on offensive against the British government, and they did not want to participate in the Second World War, right? So who was the prime minister at that time? Options are Ramsay MacDonald, Stanley Baldwin, Neville Chamberlain, and Winston Churchill. The correct answer is option D, Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was elected as the wartime Prime Minister of India when the Second World War started. The Winston Churchill, he was elected very hastily as the Prime Minister of Britain. And Winston Churchill, he was very much focused on gaining India's support in the Second World War, because a majority of troops which were fighting from the British side, they were coming from India. A majority of the supplies, be it food supplies, ammunition supplies, vehicle supplies, animal which is there for food or for drought, all these animals, all these things, they were being supplied from India. A lot of revenue from India was being spent on war. Therefore, Winston Churchill, he did not want any disturbance from the Indian leaders for the Second World War, and he sent the Cripps mission. But according to Mr. Churchill, he sent the Cripps mission in order to delay the Indian efforts. He wanted Indians to not resort to any movement. He wanted Indians to, be busy with the Cripps mission, and by the time they are busy with the Cripps mission, they are protesting and all that. The Second World War will be over, and the Winston Churchill, he would be successful in his attempt to gain Indian support. So that is why Cripps mission, it failed, because it was not having any power, it was not having any decision making power, and also was a reason for the start of the Quit India movement. And the Winston Churchill was the mastermind behind that. Right. Next up is question number 6. Which one of the following did not happen in the year of 1946? Which of the following did not happen in 1946? Be very careful. Announcement of the Cabinet Mission of India. Cabinet mission will be sent to India, which will sit down with the Indian leaders of Congress and Muslim League to decide the future of India. Option B, direct action call given by the Muslim League. It called for a direct action day, where they demanded the country of Pakistan, and for that they resorted to violence, they resorted to riots, and there were large scale communal riots across the country on the direct action day, right? Option C, Formation of interim government. An interim government was formed under the Governor General at that time, and the interim government was headed by the Jawaharlal Nehru, who went on to become the first Prime Minister of our country, right? Option D, Lord Mountbatten's appointment as Viceroy of India. Mountbatten's appointment as Viceroy of India, it happened in 1947 and not 1946. Right. In 1947, Mountbatten was appointed as Viceroy of India. He specifically came to India in order to oversee the transition of power from Britishers to Indian masses and to the Pakistani authorities. Therefore, all the above three things, they happened in the year 1946. Cabinet mission came. The Constituent Assembly of India, it was established. Direct action call, it was given by Muslim League that we want Pakistan, and they resorted to violence. Formation of interim government under the Governor General also happened in 46. But the last Governor General, or the last Viceroy, the Lord Mountbatten, he came to India in 1947 only. Correct answer here is option number B. Sorry, option number D. Lord Mountbatten's appointment as Viceroy of India. Right. Next up, question number 7. Which of the following is not correct in context of the Royal Indian Navy revolt? This revolt is better known as the Ratings Revolt or the RIN Mutiny, where the rating officers, the short commissioned officer or non-commissioned Indian officers particularly serving in the Royal Indian Navy, they mutinied against their white officers and white superiors, and this was the last nail in the coffin of British rule in India. Britishers, they were already very afraid that they will be sent out of India, they will be brought out of India forcibly by the Indian masses. But after the revolt of Royal Indian Navy, the Britishers, they were now insecure about their defense powers also, because until now they were very much confident that all the army officers, all the navy officers, air force officers of the British Indian Army, they were loyal to the Britishers, they were loyal to the government, and that is why they were able to hold power, the Britishers. But when these mutinies started in the Indian Navy, and they gained widespread support from the local law enforcement as well, and from other branches of defense forces as well, and that scared the Britishers, and Britishers, they left India, or they left the subcontinent in much haste, right? So which of the following is not correct about this Royal Indian Mutiny? Option A, it started as a protest against the hardships regarding pay, food, and racial discrimination. This is very much correct, because by this time, by 1946 and 1945, the Second World War was coming to an end, right? The Second World War was now ending, and now the Indian masses, they were very much enthusiastic about the upcoming independence, about the imminent independence, and that is why all the hardships which were being faced by the Indian officers in Indian Navy, they were given lesser pay than white officers, they were given inferior quality of food, they were also discriminated on the racial basis. Therefore, they started this particular mutiny as a protest, right? Option B, Congress, Muslim League, and Communist flags were jointly hoisted on the ship's mast. This was one of the most starking features of this Royal Indian Mutiny, that it was not organized on communal lines, it was not influenced by religion. There were officers in the Indian Navy belonging to all religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, Islam, all these religions, religious officers, they were there. Similarly, all the regions were being represented, officers from all over India, officers from Pakistan, now current Pakistan, and from Bangladesh, and from Indian different regions, they were also part of the Royal Indian Navy. And the supporters of the different parties were also part of this particular protest. The soldiers, or the rating officers who protested, some of them were supporters of Congress, some of Muslim League, some were communist in nature, but this showed that there was a overall unity amongst all these rating officers, and with this was one of the starking features, and also one of the features which scared the Britishers the most, because until now most of the struggles, they were either organized upon the lines of religion, they were either organized upon the lines of some political ideologies, but now this final revolt of Indian Royal Navy, this basically scared the Britishers, because it was unanimous, it was united, and there was no fault line in there, right? Option C, revolt was undertaken at Bombay only. No, now this is wrong. Revolt started at Bombay. The rating station at Bombay, the naval station at Bombay, their officers, they started protesting violently, but this protest soon spread across Calcutta, Vishakhapatnam, or Vizag, or Madras, all the stations where Indian Navy was posted. There these protests, they spread. There was also violence in the coastal areas also, not only in the naval stations. The local people, the local residents of the country, of those locations, they also came in support of the rating officers, and they started agitating violently, and about 200 people also died in Bombay because of these protests, right? So this statement, option C, is wrong. D is also correct. Cabinet mission was sent in response to this revolt because now the Britishers realized that they cannot placate Indian masses for long. All these sections of Indian society, they were becoming more and more agitated. They were becoming more and more restless, and we have to give independence to India as soon as possible. And that is why they sent the cabinet mission in 1946. Right? Correct answer here is option C. The revolt was undertaken at Bombay only. This is wrong. Revolt was also expanded to other important naval stations in India. Next up is question number 8. Which of the following can be regarded as the aims for launching individual satyagraha? Individual satyagraha was launched by Congress. What was the aim of this particular thing? Option A, to give another opportunity to the government to accept Congress demands peacefully. Option B, to show that nationalist patience was not due to weakness. Option C, to give opportunity to few selected individual congressmen to pursue their own provincial demands. And option D, both A and B are correct. So we know that individual satyagraha basically started after the Quit India movement in order to show Britishers that we Indians are not at all in support of the Second World War. We are supporting you on some, principal grounds. We are supporting you on ideological basis, but we are not at all in support of your imperialist goals, your colonialist goals. And this patience, that we are not agitating violently, we are not forcibly trying to throw you out, this is not a sign of weakness. We are only doing it because we are doing what we believe is right. Right? To give another opportunity to the government to accept Congress demand, yes, they were giving another opportunity to the Britishers to accept the Congress demands and gain support for the Second World War. Right? Because initially Indian leaders, they also wanted the British side to win in the Second World War, because the other side was being led by Hitler and other fascist forces, which were not at all which was not at all acceptable to India. Now, the C option is wrong because there was no, scope for individual congressmen to pursue their own provincial demands. This was not at all the aim for launching individual satyagraha movement. Therefore, correct answer is option D. Both A and B are correct aims for launching the individual satyagraha. Next up is question number 9. When Lord Mountbatten became the first Governor General of India, who became the Governor General of Pakistan? The Pakistan declared its independence on 14th of August of 1947, while India declared it on 15th of August of 1947. And after independence, India's Governor General, he was still Lord Mountbatten, but Pakistan's Governor General changed on the night of independence. Option A, Lord Mountbatten. Option B, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Option C, Liaquat Ali Khan. And option D, Shaukat Ali. The correct answer is Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founding father of Pakistan. He's considered, and he was also the first Governor General of Pakistan. And India's first Governor General, be very careful, was the independent India's first Governor General was Lord Mountbatten. The second Governor General of independent India was C. Rajagopalachari, who was also the last Governor General, because after that the Constitution was enacted and the post of Governor General was replaced by the President of India. Right? Next up is question number 10 and the last question of this particular session. Who among the following suggested the winding up of the Indian National Congress after Indian independence? When India attains independence, after that, the Indian National Congress should be winded up, it should be disbanded, it should be disorganized, it should not continue further. Who among the following suggested this? Option A, C. Rajagopalachari. Option B, Acharya Kripalani. Option C, Mahatma Gandhi. And option D, Jay Prakash Narayan. Very famously, this quote is associated with Mahatma Gandhi, who said that after Indian independence is attained, the Indian National Congress would be should be disbanded or should be winded up, because the primary aim, the reason why this Indian National Congress was formed was to attain Indian independence, and now that goal has been achieved. So there was no longer a need for Indian National Congress. This was said by Gandhiji. Right? Obviously, we know that his demand or his this wish was not at all accepted, was not at all executed, but this is what he said. Right? So this is all for today's session, my friends. We have discussed 10 important questions, and with this, let us conclude this session. And I will be coming up with these sessions where we'll be discussing more and more important MCQs, more and more different subjects related to the modern history as well as the Indian political system, so that by the time our examination is scheduled, we are ready with a host of questions. We are ready with more than 200 250 questions related to the subject, and there is more and more probability of all those questions to come in the exams, more and more probability for any of the questions that you have revised to be there in the exam. Right? So best of luck to you. Keep on reading, keep on growing. Jai Hind and Jai Bharat.